That changed with Miss Abigail Fairchild. She ran the five and dime, a wisp of a woman with cold blue eyes. She didn't just enforce the rules, she polished them. One day, Eli reached a small hand toward a toy car, just to look. Her voice cut across the store. "Don't touch what isn't meant for you." He flinched like he'd been struck. Samuel's hand tightened on my arm. That was a different kind of sign. It wasn't about water. It was about worth. That summer, Samuel got tense. He'd heard about sit-ins up north. "Change is coming, Cora," he'd whisper at night. But his eyes were scared. I was terrified. Change meant danger. Our neighbor, Mr. Jenkins, had his shed burned. The message was clear. I begged Samuel for quiet. "We have sons," I told him. "Our fight is keeping them safe." We argued in hushed, desperate whispers in the dark. I saw the sign as a fence keeping us out. Samuel was starting to see a fence that needed tearing down. Then came the errand. A blistering August day. Samuel was working. Jonah had a fever. I needed medicine. Eli begged to come. The store was quiet and hot. Jonah fussed. I was at the back counter. Eli stood by the water fountains. He looked at the shiny whites only one. He was so thirsty. I heard a small squeak. I turned. He was on his tiptoes, his hand on the lever. He wasn't drinking. He was just watching the clean, cool water arc. His face was full of simple curiosity. My heart stopped. "You." Her voice was a whip crack. Miss Fairchild moved fast, a pale fury. "Get your filthy hands off that." Eli froze. Water dripped. I rushed over. "I'm so sorry. He didn't drink. He just..." She didn't look at me. Her eyes were on my boy. "Little animal," she hissed. "You think you can just take what's ours?" Then she grabbed his chin. Her fingers dug in. She forced his head to turn, to look at his own reflection in the polished chrome. "See that? That's all you'll ever be, a shadow." I saw the light in his eyes die, just go out, replaced by a deep, dark confusion. It wasn't shame, it was erasure. I didn't say a word. I took his limp hand. We walked out, left everything. We walked home in a silent nightmare. When Samuel came home, I was right here at this table. Eli was curled in a corner, hollow. I told Samuel, every word flat like a stone. I watched the storm in him break. He stood up. His chair fell over. He didn't say a word. He just walked out. Night fell. Eli trembled in his sleep. Jonah cried. I didn't move. Where was Samuel? I saw visions of fire, of white sheets. Was he hurt? Had he hurt someone? The rules were my prison, but they were my map. Now the map was gone. Near dawn, pounding on the door, 2 white policemen. "Mrs. Jefferson, your husband's in jail." They said he went to the 5 and dime after hours. He didn't set a fire. He took a pot of black paint. He painted over the sign, covered it, a black square. Miss Fairchild called it vandalism. The relief he was alive was swallowed by cold fear. Jail was a death sentence for a black man who did that. I went to see him. Samuel sat on a cot, paint on his clothes, his knuckles raw. He looked up. "I saw his face, Cora," he said, his voice rough. "I couldn't let that be his world." I pressed my hand to the cold bars. All my arguments for safety melted. He was right. The fence was there to break our children. Protecting them meant fighting back. "What do we do?" I asked. He gave a tired, fierce smile. "We get a lawyer. We make noise." They charged him. We got a lawyer from Jackson. The NAACP came. Our quiet shame became a noisy problem. We didn't win in court. Samuel got probation and a huge fine. It crippled us for years, but the sign stayed painted. The town finally took it down. They put a new one around back. A hollow victory, but not for us. Eli saw his father stand up. He saw me find my voice. The light came back slow. He learned the world was wrong, not him. He became a teacher. Jonah became a lawyer. They carried that story. Samuel's been gone 10 years. I look at my grandchildren now. I see their clear, proud reflections. The day that broke me was the day I started fighting. Your breaking point? That might be where your strength is born. Don't let anyone tell you your reflection is a shadow. See it, claim it, and if you have to, paint over every last sign they try to put on you. And you know what? That fine nearly broke us. We ate beans for a year. Samuel lost his overtime at the factory. They found reasons to cut his hours, but we paid it, every penny, because that painted sign stayed black for everyone to see. It was a scar on their perfect little town, and our story got out. A reporter from Jackson came. He wrote about it. Not on the front page, but it was there. People started talking. Not all nice talk. Some ugly talk, too. We got looks. Our tires got slashed once. But we also got letters from black families in other towns. They said they heard. They said thank you. That's when I realized something. The breaking wasn't the end. It was a crack. And light gets in through cracks. So does sound. Our quiet was gone. And Samuel, he was different. Not angry. Purposeful. He'd come home from his reduced hours, tired, but he'd sit with Eli. He'd tell him, "You are not a shadow. You are a boy, a smart, good boy." He'd make him say it back. It was medicine. Slow, stubborn medicine. Miss Fairchild sold the 5 and dime a year later. They said she moved to live with a sister up north. The new owner took the fountain out altogether, put in a rack of garden hoses. I guess it was easier than dealing with the trouble. They put the new whites only sign on a fountain by the back wall, near the trash bins, like they were ashamed of it. That was something. They felt a little shame. We saw it. But here's the thing. The real change wasn't downtown. It was in my house. It was in me. I stopped teaching my boys to make themselves small. I started teaching them to stand tall, to know their rights, even if those rights were just words on paper the town ignored. I found my voice. At the PTA, at the church social, I'd speak up. My heart would hammer, but I'd do it. because I kept seeing Eli's face in that chrome. Samuel lived to see our boys become men. He saw Eli get his teaching certificate. He held Jonah's law degree in his hands and cried. Real, quiet tears. That was his victory. Not the sign coming down. Their futures going up. He's been gone 10 years now. I miss him every day. But I feel him here, at this old table. I feel his steady strength. He showed me that sometimes love doesn't look like keeping quiet. It looks like a pot of black paint on a hot night. It looks like standing up, even when you're scared to death, especially when you're scared to death. He showed me that sometimes love doesn't look like keeping quiet. It looks like a pot of black paint on a hot night. It looks like standing up, even when you're scared to death, especially when you're scared to death. And you know what? I was still scared for years after. The fear never really left. It just changed shape. It became the sound of a car slowing down too late at night. It was the empty space where Samuel's overtime pay should have been. It was watching Eli, even as a grown man, sometimes get that faraway look, that hollow look. That was the cost. That's what we lost. We bought his pride back in installments of fear and beans and slashed tires. And some days, I wondered if it was too high a price. If I'd have been better off just moving him along that day, keeping my head down. If my quiet was better than this noisy, hungry fear. The hardest moment wasn't in the store. It wasn't in the jail. It was years later. Eli was in high school. He was smart, top of his class. He came home one afternoon, his face like stone. They'd had an assembly about careers. He'd stood up and said he wanted to be a teacher. A white boy in the back had laughed, loud, said, "Who's going to let you teach their kids?" The teacher had told Eli to sit down, to not cause a disruption. He told me this at this very table. And then he looked at me, and he said the words that broke me all over again. He said, "Was Daddy wrong?" Just like that. Was Daddy wrong? Because that boy, he still sees a shadow. The sign's gone, Mama, but he still sees it. I didn't have an answer. I just sat there. Samuel was at work. It was just me and my boy and his terrible question. All that fight, all that cost, and my son was asking me if it was for nothing, if the shadow was forever. I felt everything inside me just crumble. I thought we were building something new, but we were just living in the ruins of the old thing, with the wind still blowing through. I took his hand. I said, "No, baby, your daddy wasn't wrong." But my voice sounded small. It sounded like a lie. He just nodded and went to his room. I sat here and I cried. Hard, ugly sobs. For the first time since that day in the store, I let myself cry. I cried for his shame. I cried for Samuel's raw knuckles. I cried for the medicine I never bought for Jonah's fever. I cried because the fence was still there. We just painted it black. I sat there and cried because the fence was still there. We just painted it black. And that was the real lesson. It took me years to see it. The fight isn't to win, not in the way you think. It's to plant the seed. It's to show your children what a spine looks like, even if yours is trembling. Samuel wasn't wrong. That white boy in Eli's class still saw a shadow because that's what he was taught to see. But Eli, by then, he knew he wasn't one. He knew his father had painted over a sign for him. He knew his mother had found her voice. The victory wasn't in changing that boy's mind that day. The victory was that Eli didn't believe him anymore. The victory was in the asking of the question itself. Was Daddy wrong? He could ask it. He wasn't sure, but he could ask. Before that painted sign, he would have just swallowed the shame whole and believed it. That's the difference. We gave him the tools to question the lie. We couldn't tear down every fence, but we gave him the strength to climb it, to see over it, to know a bigger world was on the other side. I was wrong about so much. I was wrong that safety was in silence. Silence just made us accomplices to our own breaking. I was wrong that a mother's love was only about shelter. Sometimes a mother's love has to be a shield, yes, but other times it has to be a sword. And sometimes it just has to be a steady hand on your back saying, "Go on, I'm here," when your husband walks out the door with a can of paint. What love really required of me wasn't patience. It was courage. The two feel so different. Patience is quiet. Courage is loud, even when you don't make a sound. So here's my advice, especially to those of you with years behind you. Don't let your story end with a sigh and that's just the way it was. That's a gift you're leaving on the table. Your memories, the hard ones, the ones that still ache, they're not just scars. They're lessons. Sit with your grandchildren. Sit with a young person who'll listen. Don't perform. Just be there. Tell them about the day your heart broke. Tell them about the sign you saw, literal or not. Tell them how it felt, the heat of the pavement, the smell of the store, the weight of the silence in the car on the way home. Give them the texture of it. That's how history lives, not in dates, but in details. That's how they learn to recognize the new signs, the quiet ones, the ones that aren't on fountains but are in the air all the same. You still have time, maybe not years, but you have now, and now is enough. A single afternoon on a porch, telling one true story can be a seed. I've seen it grow, and there is hope. It doesn't look like a finish line. It looks like my grandson, who never had to learn to make himself small, teaching his own son about his great-grandfather Samuel and the pot of paint. It's in the chain. It's in the passing of the story. The reflection in the chrome is gone. Now my family sees themselves in each other's eyes. That's the world we built, one cracked piece at a time. This is my story. But it doesn't end with me. It ends with you. If this meant something to you, do this for me. Subscribe to this channel. Turn on those notifications. We're telling these stories here, the real ones, the ones that built us and broke us and made us. Hit like so others find their way to it. And in the comments, I'm asking you a question. It's the most important one. What is the sign you remember? It doesn't have to be from 1961. It could be from last week. What was the moment you understood a line had been drawn? Share it. Your story is someone else's armor. Then share this video. Not just online. Sit with someone and watch it together. Start the conversation at your own kitchen table. We've built a place on our website where you can actually submit your story, write it down, or even record a short video. We're collecting them. We're making an archive of courage, because these stories are a blueprint. They show us where the fences are and how good people have painted over them, torn them down, or climbed them for a better view. If you want to go deeper, I've helped put together a short list of books, stories like mine, stories unlike mine, that taught me I wasn't alone. The link is below. Remember with me. Speak with me. Your voice right now is a brush in your hand. You decide what you paint over.